Hello and welcome to AAI, the podcast about analytics in sports. Say hi to my partner, Andrew, down in San Diego. Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Phil. Hey, everyone.
And if you've been with us before, there's something missing in one of these squares that's up here, or down there. There we go. And that something is someone. Ari is on vacation, which is really rare for him. And Andrew, you know that better than I do. That guy is a grinder. He's on vacation. We give him a chance to catch his breath after the Major League Baseball trade flurry and before the NFL starts. So, Ari, enjoy your vacation. Don't watch the rest of this. Enjoy your family. Take time off because we know he would watch this. He is an amazing guy, a good friend, and a really wonderful colleague. All right. So, Ari, enjoy your vacation. Turn this off. But everybody else, stay with us because we're going to talk about the uncertainty of all of the football kingdom, college and NFL, and everything that means. And everything that means is a lot right now, Andrew. So we're going to start with no fans or some fans. We'll talk about that. The NFL starts a week from Thursday. Showcase game, showcase quarterbacks, Houston Texans at Kansas City. You get Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, a full schedule on Sunday plus 2 Monday night games. So we're going to dig into the economic impact of all of that, of no fans, partial fans, and one team that's really trying to stretch it. We're going to talk about sports betting and fantasy football too. So that team, no surprise, Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, not only planning to have fans, but the state of Texas allows 50% capacity, and for AT&T Stadium, which has become America's football stadium, that's just under 50,000 fans, about 48, 49,000. Keep in mind, the Rams and Chargers have a brand new, beautiful SoFi Stadium, no fans. The Jets and Giants in New York City, no fans. So if no fans, Andrew, an estimated nearly $7 billion hit in unrealized revenue for teams and fans trying to sell tickets. That's 7 with a B, and that's huge.
It is absolutely huge. It's mind-boggling. We know how big football is as a business.
Well, and it hits us from several different angles. Let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons, for example. They're walking
Yeah,
away from about 10 million in, and you're going to have to explain this, in personal seat licensing over about a 12-month period. And the Atlanta Journal-Constitution had a story on that recently.
yeah, right. I mean, this has been a controversy in a lot of sports. The whole idea of personal seat licenses, where you pay, in some cases, massive amounts of money for the right to buy your season tickets, not in exchange for the actual season tickets. And many stadiums, including the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, were in part funded by those personal seat licenses. But people have always wondered exactly what they were worth. But yeah, I mean, it's mind-boggling. This isn't just a pandemic-related thing, but it's actually almost $11 million in personal seat licenses people walked away from. And since it really got going in 2016, it's over 40 million of these people have walked away from. And it's kind of an interesting concept because, as I understood the personal seat license, the idea was you were supposed to be able to resell these when you no longer wanted your season tickets. And so there should be a resale market that you could recoup some of this money, which with 40 million walking away and 10 million in the last year, it tells me there isn't a resale market in these personal seat license, or it's so low or it's so hard to find the people who want to buy it. It's just not worth really taking advantage of.
Traditional NFL fans probably understand that and understand how that fantasy football reflects the uncertainty of the business of the season. But the traditional fan, that's behind us. The contemporary fan is totally plugged into fantasy football, totally plugged into the line moving over under in sports betting. and they understand all of the jockeying for position. And in fantasy football, it really does reflect just how uncertain this NFL season is as we embark.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Last week I mentioned that I was hearing from people who'd been running fantasy sports for decades, who were really wondering what they were going to do because they were concerned about how it was going to play out and what it was going to do to friendships. But those rumors that I was hearing from just a handful of people apparently is much bigger. It was just the tip of the iceberg. The Washington Post, I think it was late last week, had a story exactly on this. The number of people who were diehard fantasy football participants, and we know it drives a huge amount of the fandom in the NFL, are choosing not to play. And they're not playing either because of the pandemic and that's effect on their mood or financial, but it's also there's so much uncertainty about what this football season is going to look like and how are you going to play out, right? If games get canceled, what does that do? If players get put on a restricted list because they test positive, how do you handle that in this in the fantasy football rules? Because we expect to see a lot more players going out, at least for short periods of time, than we normally see.
Andrew, in a way, I want to apologize to our listeners and viewers who really don't understand the business NFL, and that's what we're going to try to do is educate them. The season kicks off in a week. Through the first 3 weeks, we're going to try to educate them on what's really happening. What is the state of contemporary NFL business? And we're going to talk about business moves that make sense to help along that journey. For example, DraftKings today announcing that Michael Jordan, the NBA legend, Charlotte Hornets owner, has taken an equity stake in the company. That's really not new, and it's legal. So it's not an earth-shattering thing. But think of this. Jordan, along with a couple of other NBA owners, Ted Leonsis of the Wizards and Mark Cuban of the Mavs, have previously invested, I think that's going back to 2015, invested in SportRadar, a company that provided data to bookmakers. So a lot of this, it's what's happening today. And another note, NBC's official sports betting partner, PointsBet, has committed just shy of $400 million in marketing, while NBC receives about a 5% equity stake in that company, PointsBet. Andrew, are you often surprised by these, or you just see it as more of more public information about what really is the business of betting and gaming with regard to the NFL and all pro sports right now?
I'm not surprised by this. We've known, if we go back a decade when sports betting was illegal and outside of a couple of states, we knew there was an estimate of a massive amount of money being bet privately in the NFL, but in all of the other sports. And with the Supreme Court ruling and the legalization process in many states that's happening right now, we expect that money to become available to legitimate businesses, right? And so this is just a natural portion of it. And I've alluded to it. There's a lot of evidence that a lot of the fandom around NFL is driven by people betting on the games or playing fantasy sports. We know how big the fantasy sports are for organizations like ESPN historically, right? That gave rise to the DraftKings FanDuel world of the daily fantasy approach. So yeah, I think this is just the natural consequence of the legalization of gambling and the recognition that these fans drive a huge portion of the fandom for the league and drive a huge percentage of the viewers on the broadcast.
Now, even in a normal world, everything you said is true, but given the pandemic and the limits we've had in society and North American culture with the virus and with our personal device, anything mobile, it's just accentuated everything you just talked about. And that's why we're going to drill down deeply into this over the first couple of weeks of the NFL season. You know, and it's all throughout the industry. You can, I mean, last week we talked about ESPN opening a studio at Caesars Link Hotel. That's the new home of the show, The Daily Wager. Caesars Palace, which owns Link, also built a studio for Bleacher Report in a sports book that hosts online shows. Andrew, what's another way that you could give us an indication of what is most contemporary, what is thoroughly contemporary today, 1 week out from the start of the NFL season, a couple of weeks away from the start of Major League Baseball playoffs, and with the plunge of the drop of NBA? I mean, we're in the middle of NBA and NHL playoffs, but the real dramatic drop in NBA viewership. How would you describe what is most contemporary today? What's happening today in casinos, gaming, sports betting, and fantasy right now?
Well, I think the most amazing thing, and you're seeing it, and it's driving this behavior, is that there is a shortage of entertainment options. We've talked about this as well over the course of the last few months. And so people are looking for entertainment. And I think in many cases, those people who are still doing okay economically, they actually have spare cash to spend. We've seen in this country our average savings rate's actually gone up because people can't spend as much out in society. And so people are looking to do this. And I think this is driving some of what's going on with the NBA and NHL. We know that the NFL is a huge betting market. And so people are doing this. And this is what Caesar's doing. They're fighting against MGM. They're fighting against all the others, right? FanDuels and such are trying to muscle into this space, if you will. William Hill from the UK is trying to get into this space. Yeah, so I think this is a sign that there's cash out there and there's people looking for entertainment.
Good stuff. Love it. You know, one of the things, entertainment starved is fair. You know, one of the trends over the last 2 to 3 months in TV viewing is that the two films, the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, which is a remake of the original, those are two of the most popular or most watched films that are movies that are running on over the air and cable TV during the pandemic, which is an example of we are starved for that. Well, college football is underway, and the bulk of it's about to get underway, and college football is tearing itself apart. Literally, the people that run the sport, the athletic directors and presidents, the coaches and players, the students at the universities. We have chronicled that over the last 3 weeks with students showing up and not doing the right thing. They're not being responsible, not being socially distant or wearing masks, and it's caused outbreaks. Arizona State University, a Pac-12 universities, a worst case scenario. University of North Carolina State, the same. In the Pac-12, they're planning to play football, of course. Iowa State says it will allow 250 or 25,000 fans into the stadium for their home opener coming up September 12th against University of Louisiana. If the team's protocol for that home game are successful, and this is the big if, and a lot of people in the industry will be watching this. If team's protocol is successful for tailgating, fans, the whole thing, the school plans to allow, I've got to listen well here, all season ticket holders, not full capacity, but all season ticket holders to attend their home opener in the conference against the Oklahoma Sooners. That's one of their biggest revenue games of the year. So, I mean, that's why people buy season tickets, right? And that's that game against the Oklahoma Sooners, October 3rd. I don't really know, Andrew, how to describe, other than what we just said, the mayhem that's in college football. You know, President Trump apparently talked with the Big Ten people to get them to start earlier. College football has its hands full, and their decision-making processes leaves a lot to be desired.
I'm just so confused. And I saw the Iowa State news, and I saw it shortly after I saw the news that there was a major outbreak of COVID infections in Ames and also in Iowa City, the home of the U of Iowa as well. And it's one of the, I think one of them was like the most hit city that week, and the other one was third on the list. And at the same time, they're talking about bringing 25,000 people into a stadium in just a couple of weeks. Um, it's really concerning to me that we're making these plans. I understand what the drive is, but I'm just worried about the cost when you have an active outbreak going on in those cities.
Well,
But
you really got to it. It's financial cost, human cost. That's really what it is. And you see the University of Michigan athletic director says some of their financial models indicate they're going to lose about 100 million. Uh,
yeah,
it's total desolation or totally blowing up an athletic department financially with let's wait and see or let's try. Tough, 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 tough.
well, and I don't even know what the right answer is here. I don't think anyone knows what the right answer is because we know outdoors is safer than indoors. Wearing masks is safer than not wearing masks. What is the risk of going to a football game and everyone wearing a mask? Now, will they wear a mask is another question, but what is the risk of that? I don't think anyone really knows. Um, and so I think that's a big risk. But I think there's something else that's going on, and we still, as a society, haven't really addressed it, which is the risk that we're putting these football players under. And I did see the news about the president meeting with the head of the Big Ten to talk about starting earlier. And we know we've got at least three athletic departments and football teams that are very unhappy in the Big Ten, right? But at the same time, this wasn't the decision of the athletic directors. This wasn't the decision of the president of the Big Ten. This was the decision of the presidents of the member universities. And their job is to think about the students and the students' health and the students' future. And we've heard some very troubling stories about asymptomatic individuals having heart complications. We know a Boston Red Sox player who tested positive before the season is out for the season because he has an enlarged heart. We know it was one of the Southern schools, smaller tier Southern school, but their starting quarterback is out for the season for exactly the same reason. I mean, if I was a president or an athletic director or even a coach, this would scare me to put people at risk this way. But yeah, but again, you've got that financial side as well.
Yeah, that's a Georgia State quarterback. And then, the biggest puzzlement, I think, is at Alabama, football rabbit Alabama. And the way Nick Saban controls the culture there, the students just have not behaved responsibly. And that's an indication of there's any form of hesitancy or caution is certainly warranted. All right, baseball. One of the things we like doing, and the big trade flurry is over, and owners are assessing hosting playoffs, and either maybe putting the American League in Southern California with the Dodgers, Angels, and Padres, and putting the National League in Houston and the Rangers' new stadium. One thing about that, the Rangers' new stadium in Arlington is beautiful. The old one's still there, so they can play there. So teams can warm up in one and walk across the parking lot and play in the other. So it really fits for those two locations. But one of the things we like doing is taking analytics and highlighting players that are not getting a lot of attention, but players that analytics serve well. And one of those guys, really an absolute rising star in the game, is Arizona Diamondbacks pitcher Zach Gallen. Now, you really got to break down the numbers to appreciate what he's doing. He's had the longest streak of 3 or fewer earned runs in every start to begin a career in Major League Baseball history. That's over 22 starts. He's allowed a shutout, no runs 3 times, only 1 run 7 times, and only 2 runs 8 times. Again, the longest streak of 3 or fewer earned runs in every start to begin a career. Zach Gallen, the Arizona Diamondbacks. The D-backs were sellers. They were not buyers. It's been a really rough start for them. they had predicted and models had predicted they'd be a little more competitive. They have not been. Now, Baseball Perspectives has some stats out. I'll do defensive runs saved, and then Andrew, you do pitch framing. How's that? I'll go. So
Sounds
defensive
good.
runs saved, uh, no surprise. He just made a once in a lifetime play that he makes about once every couple of months. Nolan Arenado, the Rockies' third baseman, is the leader in defensive runs saved so far. Curious though, Los Angeles Dodgers utility player Kiki Hernandez, who's hitting only .210 and is about to lose his job, he's number 2 in defensive runs saved. Mookie Betts, the Dodgers, number 3. Rays fleet center fielder Kevin Kiermaier is 4th. Dodger utility, another utility player, Chris Taylor, is 5th. And then one of the things I was really surprised by, Texas slugger Joey Gallo, 6th in defensive runs saved. Now we'll come back to this. Dodgers have 3 of the top 5 players in defensive runs saved so far in Major League Baseball. Pitch framing, bit of a surprise too, and some news really, because this is leveled out. But go ahead and take us through pitch framing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just surprised by the list. It's not the people I've historically thought of, well, not all of them, but it's led by Travis Darmod at Atlanta, Wilson Contreras, Cubs, Christian Vasquez, Boston, Yasmani Grandal, that a lot of people have respected in this frame for a long time with the White Sox, Austin Hedges, most recently of the San Diego Padres before going to Cleveland in that huge move over the weekend, and then Austin Barnes with the Dodgers. We know Hedges has always been ranked highly, and we know Grandal has been ranked highly for his entire career, but it's interesting to see some of these other catchers now on that list.
Well, and Austin Hedges has often been a poster boy for framing, and I know Austin, the family. I coached him when he was a little bit younger, know them well, but he struggled to hit, and he struggled mightily. Austin Barnes, number 6. There's the Dodgers again. And then Grandal, Andrew, we have, when we have done some work with artificial intelligence modeling that has revealed just how substantial at one time Grandal was, along with one other player, Buster Posey, the Giants. They were the models or the model framers, by far the best in the big leagues. We've looked at that before and broken that down.
Yeah, absolutely, and it wasn't close, right? I mean, Buster Posey and Grandal were significantly better than the field.
Right, and so here we stand 3 weeks out from the playoffs getting underway, trade deadline behind us, and the Dodgers are dominating. If you like the Dodgers or if you don't like the Dodgers, they are 27-10 as we record this on a Wednesday, a 93 plus 93 run differential. That's nearly double the next best team, which is Cleveland with plus 48, and I think the White Sox are right at about 44. The Dodgers are a picture of excellence right now, and in the LA market where I live, we have a chance to watch the Dodgers, which we really haven't for the last, I don't know, most of the last decade. So watching them, and they've turned over their pitching staff. Even without Buehler and Kershaw being dominant, they're still. And I just go, that starts at the top. Andrew Freeman, we tip our cap to you, and the manner in which, the very organized and efficient manner in which that organization is run and the product on the field. But I'd say this, as dominant as they are, there are no guarantees they're going to win a short series in baseball playoffs. We learn over and over again, chaos or unpredictability is the rule in Major League Baseball playoffs. And Andrew,
Yeah.
the Dodgers know that well too, don't they?
Well, they have some hard-fought experience in that regard. But I mean, leading into that, I'd like to talk about what I thought was the surprise of the weekend. We know the Padres, living in San Diego, we know the Padres were on notice that it was win this year or else. And Preller went all in. And in some ways, remade the team, is taking his shot. And when you look at some of the summaries of what he did, he improved his chance of winning the World Series by several percent, which is really, really high. But at the same time, they point out, because those initial series are 3 games, there's still like a 30% chance that the best team is going to lose in that 3-game series. So again, the Dodgers are dominant. The Padres have set themselves up as, I think, the clear favorite as the second best team in the National League right now. And still both of them could be bumped out in the first round really easily. So it's going to be a wild playoff.
That'll be fun. And then we look ahead to this weekend. Can Tiz the Law capture horse racing's Triple Crown? That's the question, really. He raced a victory back in June in the Belmont Stakes in New York to take the first leg. He's the early favorite, of course, for the Derby. And going off today, as we record this on a Wednesday, the odds 4-5. He captured recently the Saratoga Stakes and looked impressive during that. The Preakness is still a long way off. That's October 3rd. So, Andrew, how much money do we have to put down on Tiz the Law to win a couple thousand?
What was the odds again? I'm
4 or
sorry.
5.
You're going to have to put down quite a bit, close to 1,000, right, to get back that additional 1,000. So it's not great odds. Or he's a big favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the question. Can we have a new Triple Crown Triple Crown winner? And that's always fun to watch. And it'll be interesting to watch the Derby. No fans, none of the great big hats for the women, none of the mint juleps for everybody. And then Louisville, Kentucky, like Indianapolis, really lights up with an international flair that is unique to the sports world because of all the fans who show up early and stay late. And of course, this is a horse racing Super Bowl because not only is Louisville there, but Keeneland and Lexington is just a short drive away. That's really the home of the industry, just as Indy is the home of the industry for racing. Well, that'll do it for us right now. More of this to come. Professor Engel, thank you very much. I'm your lead student for learning all about what's going on today. And we're all just trying to sort out what is happening today with the business of sports betting, gaming, gambling, fantasy football, and what's happening in this sport, all with definitely a new day in the sports and entertainment industry. Ari, we missed you. We look forward to having you back with us next week, and we look forward to having you join us as well. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm Phil, and that's Andrew. We'll see you next week right here on AAI, the podcast on analytics and sports.